Are you on a low-fat diet and still struggling to lose weight? Today I'm going to give you a sweet surprise. This is Dr. Shaila. I'm going to talk about big fat sweet secret today. What is it? This is high fructose corn syrup. We are all very familiar with this name. And how does it come? Where does it come from? Corn has no fructose naturally. In 1957, scientists discovered an enzyme that converts corn glucose to fructose. And that's not the only thing. This corn is genetically modified. Why did it all start? Why is this so attractive to food industry? Because in 1977 in USA, the system of sugar tariffs and quotas was imposed. That's when it became difficult to import the sugar. Sugar became expensive. So this is a very attractive alternative for food industry. Why? Because it's cheaper, it is sweeter, it is 20 times sweeter than the table sugar. This is in a liquid form. It's very easy for them to mix it in the food. And it comes in 3 different concentrations. High fructose corn syrup 42 has 42% fructose in it, and 55 has 55% fructose, and 90% fructose, which is a highly purified high fructose corn syrup. And glucose and fructose are simple sugars, they're monosaccharides. Fructose is often referred to as fruit sugar, and all carbohydrates have 4 calories per gram. And how much fructose we are supposed to take in a day? If you were to receive fructose naturally from sugars, like in fruits, beet sugars, cane, honey, like most people did a century ago, you would consume about 15 grams of fructose in a day. Nowadays, average American gets about 70 to 100 grams per day. You know the answer why. And I'll briefly tell you how they work inside your body. When you take glucose, it stimulates the insulin from the pancreas. And when the insulin is stimulated, there is a hormone called leptin, which is a satiety hormone. It gives you the satisfaction that is increased. And there's a hormone called ghrelin, which is a hunger hormone. This is decreased. That means you feel full and you don't feel hungry, so you don't have a desire to eat. When you take fructose and there's no stimulation of insulin, and the leptin is not produced and ghrelin is not produced, that means you feel hungry. And how is the high fructose corn syrup metabolized? High fructose corn syrup is metabolized to triglycerides and adipose tissue. Because it does not stimulate insulin and does not secrete leptin, the signal for you to stop eating is not there. That's why you put on weight. And in my experience, I've seen several patients with a high triglyceride number. When I check the cholesterol profile, when I talk to them, most of them say that they eat all these things that have high fructose corn syrup. And this is the most important of all the slides I'm presenting you. The fruit sugar, which come from natural fruits, right? This high fructose corn syrup on the other column is the manufactured sugar. The difference between these two is when you eat fruit sugar, it has got 50% of the fructose and 50% of the glucose, and each fructose molecule is bound to glucose molecule. In the high fructose corn syrup, due to the manufacturing process, there is 55% of the fructose and 42% of the glucose, and you see 3% of the saccharides. A teeny bit amount of high fructose is not the main problem here. But the problem is the unbound fructose. Here this fructose is not bound to the glucose molecules. That is the main problem in your body. High fructose corn syrup contributes to obesity epidemic. It is linked to diabetes, metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is a group of risk factors that increases your risk of heart attack and diabetes. These risk factors are including high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, and excess fat around the waist. And obesity, non-alcoholic fatty liver, and cardiovascular disease. And this is a research, Princeton University research showed that consumption of more high fructose corn syrup has substantial increase in the abdominal fat. Look at the picture here. This study was done on the rats. They gave 50% of the rats high fat diet and 50% high fructose corn syrup. Actually, the syrup that they used in the study was much less concentrated than what you see in the soft drinks. And the rats that received high fructose corn syrup put on so much weight. Small scale studies were done on human beings. And what are the major sources of this high fructose corn syrup? You'll be surprised to see all the drinks, juices, bread, and cereals, and soups, crackers, and dressings, ketchup, syrup, mayonnaise. It's pretty much 90% of what you see on the shelves have high fructose corn syrup. There are several misleading names because public came to know about high fructose corn syrup and its adverse effects on your health. You won't really see that name in most of the things, and I'm going to give you the common disguises you see on the labels. Inulin, fruit fructose, chicory, isoglucose, glucose fructose syrup, corn sweeteners, corn sugar. These are all the names you are seeing on the labels instead of high fructose corn syrup, and that's nothing but high fructose corn syrup. I took photographs of some of the labels that I have. This is a label on the cereal. You can see that it has got milled corn sugar, which is nothing but high fructose corn syrup. And this is another label from the cereal. It says whole grain corn, sugar, cornmeal, corn syrup, and all these are, like I told you, concealed names. And this is chocolate syrup, and they of course said that high fructose corn syrup here. And this is the label from the ketchup. It says high fructose corn syrup too. American Heart Association says women should consume no more than 100 calories a day. That means only 6 teaspoons of sugar. You can count how much you are eating. And they said men can get about 9 teaspoons of sugar. And not just the human beings, even the honeybees are the victims. Unfortunately, high fructose corn syrup is a sucrose replacement for the honeybees in USA and Canada. How can you tell how much is in? And there's no direct way. It's not required to label how much high fructose corn syrup is there in the product. But there is an indirect way of telling. That's why label reading is so important if you're aiming to avoid the high fructose corn syrup. If the high fructose corn syrup is on the top of the list, just avoid it. If total grams of sugar is high, avoid it. And too many unfamiliar ingredients, just don't buy the product. And my recommendation, of course, spend more time in kitchen. Otherwise, you'll end up spending more time in doctor's offices and in the hospitals down the road. Eat fresh fruits and vegetables. Make homemade juices. And make homemade yogurt. This is very important, like I always say. And avoid sodas, juices, canned soups, frosted cereals, and processed food. And little tips for you, in case you're baking anything, just use applesauce rather than any sweetener for baking. And if you have to buy any canned fruits, just buy the cans that says canned in its own juice for the fruit cans. I hope you find this topic useful, and thank you for listening to me. See you next time.